Hello everybody, and welcome to this video where I update you on my top 10 stocks in the portfolio. This is a weekly video that I do. Don't forget that I do these videos mostly to reach new viewers on the channel. The channel has been very slow the past 2 weeks. Must be the September slump. Nobody looks at stocks, and so I want to make these videos because I want my channel to be shared, and I want to reach out. So anyways, let's go. So these are my 10 stocks, my top 10 stocks in the portfolio. And if you're new to the channel, let me tell you about what I do on this channel. What I do on this channel is hyper growth investing. That means that I invest in stocks that grow their revenue at least at 30%. I want 30% revenue growth going forward for the next 12 months, but hopefully beyond the next 12 months. And many of these stocks have had guidance that implies 30+% growth on revenue for more than 12 months, like Tesla, for example. Tesla is next 10 years, 50% deliveries until 2030. That's what Tesla is, right? But why do I want such high growth? Well, I want such high growth because I have no choice. The channel is named Beat the Denominator. And why is it named Beat the Denominator? Because I'm trying to exceed monetary inflation. In my view of money, of the dollar, in my view of economics and the world, we live in a world where the money is getting diluted through mostly commercial banks making loans, but that's what we colloquially refer to as monetary printing. And monetary printing is simply a proverbial way of saying that there's new money being issued every year. And right now, the Fed has been trying to tighten the money belt, but it's not the case. The money is still being issued. We still saw what happened with the BTFP program in March to save the regional banks. And my guess is that right now they're bluffing. The Fed is bluffing, and it will have to get into a massive QE as soon as the U.S. deficit and the U.S. debt needs to be refinanced, the one that becomes to maturity next year. I think they will have to resume printing, monetary printing, and so we may get a few years where we're actually above 15%. But my new operating mode is to believe that monetary inflation, how many new dollars are out there each year? To me, I consider that to be 15%. And in order to beat 15%, what do I have to achieve on a return here is 30%, because I want to at least achieve a 15% nominal return. Sorry, a 30% nominal return. And to achieve a 30% nominal return, I need to subtract the 15% of monetary inflation. And the 15%, why did I pick a 15%? Because in general, my goal is to what? Is to achieve a doubling in 5 years. So I have no choice to find that type of growth. I have no choice to find 30%. All I have to do is go into innovation, go into hyper growth. I like Google, I like Apple as much as the next guy, but these companies are not going to grow revenue at 30% because they are already too big. And so I also use revenue growth. Why do I use revenue growth? Because revenue growth is the best proxy for product adoption. It's a way for me to identify companies whose products are getting adopted. I try to identify companies whose products are getting adopted because my style of investing can be summarized in this, to get the 30% growth over, 10 years, to get that 30% compounded growth, I have to find stocks that are early on in their product adoption curve or service adoption curve, and these stocks have to get adopted. These products have to get adopted. And you can see that slope right there, the slope of that curve. The goal is for it to be about more than 30%. And it is more than 30% if you invest in a business all the way until the service or product that they sell is adopted by 80%, 90% of the market. And the goal is you try to get into a stock where it's only adopted by 5% of the market. And this is why in my channel, I don't care much about PE because PEs don't matter to me because I invest in high growth companies. So PEs don't matter, right? What matters is revenue and revenue growth and gross profit because my companies are optimized for gross profit and gross profit alone. They're not optimized for net profits. And one of the important metrics of this spreadsheet is what? It's the enterprise value over gross profit over revenue growth. And this is my spin on the PEG ratio. And what this number tells me is how much am I paying for each percentage point of future forward growth. And of course, the goal is to pay as little as possible if you are trying to find a stock that is undervalued on a 12-month basis, right? But let's keep in mind that this investing game, to me, my typical holding period for a stock is 10 years. It's not 1 year. So it may help you figure out which stock is the cheapest right now, but it will not help you figure out which stock is the best performer over the next 10 years. And the stocks that I cover today are stocks that I think are going to outpace monetary inflation, and they are my top stocks in my portfolio, and they represent product adoption of different sectors. So let me go briefly through each stock that I own. My number one position, at about a third of the portfolio, is Tesla. Why do I own Tesla? It's revolutionizing electric cars. Cars, period, not electric cars, but it's revolutionizing cars by the introduction of electric cars. You can see, the market share of Tesla is still in the mid 60%. Like it's still roughly 65% around the world, their market share on electric car. Where is the competition? I've been hearing for 3 years that the competition is coming. They still have 60+% of a market share in electric cars. So, and if electric cars become the mainstream thing, which they will be, in my view, then Tesla is poised to be, a 5 trillion plus company. I mean, if you have one company that's so monopolistic that it owns 65% of the electric market, I mean, it's going to be absolutely stunning. Knowing that Tesla, of course, is not a high-end product. No, Tesla is the best product. It is not the high-end product. We can't wait for the Model 2. When they release the Model 2, this Model 2 is likely going to take over the world. And you can see that Tesla is consistently the cheapest electric car, but it is also aside from in the US, the Chevy Bolt. But if you forget about the Chevy Bolt, which is really not a practical electric car. If you forget about the Chevy Bolt, the Tesla, the Model 3, the Model Y are the cheapest electric car consistently because they keep dropping the prices. And of course, why are Teslas getting adopted, but electric cars in general, why are they getting adopted? Because they are 10 times cheaper. They are 10 times cheaper to fuel, $7 to $10 for a full quote-unquote tank of electricity for a full charge. And of course, today electric cars have more than 400 miles. If you look at the latest Model 3, it's got 424 miles of range. The miles will increase. The mileage on these cars will increase. They will get adopted. Tesla is the epitome of 10x over 10x over 10x. So it's 10x curves on top of 10x curves. It's a 0 to 1 product because, of course, it is not only one order of magnitude cheaper, but it is also one order of magnitude better if it drives itself, right? Which it doesn't do yet, but it's pretty darn close. And when that happens, how many times better is a car that drives itself, right? How much do cars that don't drive themselves, how much do they lose value? They lose a lot of value because everybody, I mean, unless you love driving and you're a professional driver and you really enjoy driving, you're not going to, you're going to want a car that drives itself. At least that is my stance. That is the way I look at it. But guess what? Even if you love driving, you're going to want an electric car because if you love driving, you know that no car accelerates faster than an electric car. That doesn't exist. They accelerate the fastest. We've heard the rumor this past week about a Model 3 Plaid. So what would be a Model 3 plate? Could you have a Model 3 that does 0 to 60 in under 2 seconds? Well, maybe not that much, but if you do a 0 to 60 in 2.2 seconds and the car is 40 grand, right? If you love driving, that's going to be the more compelling vehicle. So this is kind of crazy. This is overwhelming. This is a car that is taking over the car market, just like the iPhone took over the smartphone market in 2008, 2009-ish. As soon as they started releasing the second and third version of the iPhone, it took over the world. To me, this is what's happening in front of our eyes with Tesla. And, I drive quite a bit. Whenever I drive, I see more and more Teslas. I see them everywhere. And of course, the Model Y is already the best-selling car in the world, but this is just going to increase. By the way, the returns for Tesla over the past 10 years, you can see you're at above 50% nominal return, which would mean that you are getting a close to 40% real return on Tesla if you had invested in the next 10 years. I think, granted not as fast, but growth is going to continue to be hyper growth for a company like Tesla. Let me move on to Enphase. Enphase is my second favorite stock. Enphase is dealing with a revolution in energy, just like Tesla. Although Tesla is more of a transportation revolution, but Enphase, of course, is dealing with the installation of solar panels on people's homes. What they do is they do residential solar. They are the leader in the US in residential solar, and they are becoming increasingly a more powerful player in Europe in residential solar. Of course, they don't make solar panels because solar panels are typically made in China these days, and people just want to buy the cheapest solar panel. It's very tough to differentiate yourself on solar panels. I mean, sure, some of them try to say, oh, we have all black solar panels and they look better, but it's so impossible. To me, it's impossible to charge a premium for solar panels, but it's possible to charge a premium on the more important technology in these systems, which is the inverter and what type of inverter you're going to use. And so Enphase is the leader of microinverters. Microinverters are these tiny boxes that you put under each panel on your roof. They're the leader of microinverter. I've done plenty of videos on the channel as to why I believe microinverters are the absolute best technology for residential solar. There's many reasons as to why residential adoption of microinverters is a thing and will continue to be a thing in my view. And of course, every time an installer sells a solar panel, right, there's a microinverter under it. And this is a company, in my view, that can scale much faster than the making of solar panels. Quickly talking about solar adoption, it's worth noting that it's about 4% in the US and 10% in the EU. So we are just at the beginning of that product adoption curve. The product is going to get adopted exponentially, and exponentially, the more electric bills go up, the more the product gets adopted. And it helps for Enphase that they are, in my view, in a duopoly with SolarEdge. These are the two main players for whole home residential systems. And when you have a duopoly, you kind of have the market covered, and competition, even though it's still competition, oftentimes competition becomes a little more friendly because you're a duopoly. So if Enphase does something, SolarEdge will do it. If SolarEdge does something, Enphase will do it, and you get almost to sort of isomorphic behaviors where when two companies are in a duopoly, like give it 5 years, they will start to price match each other. They will start to really behave in the same way to cement that market. Even though it's a subconscious thing that they sometimes do, but it's none of these companies are dropping prices or doing everything to kill the market. No, they are a duopoly, and they're enjoying that duopoly. And that's why I own both firms, but Enphase is a much bigger position for me because I believe they have a technically superior position. Look at the returns, right? Close to Tesla, 42% returns. I mean, it's stunning. This has been a stellar stock, and I'm so happy to own it as the second biggest stock for me. Let me move on to HIMS. HIMS is a more controversial stock, so a lot of people disagree with me on HIMS. I am still very bullish on HIMS. I had someone in the comment section tell me, you haven't done a video on HIMS in a week. Are you still bullish? Well, yeah, I'm still bullish. It's just that there's no news right now. There's not that many news on HIMS. So what am I going to do? Make a video? No, there's no news. No, the product is getting adopted. If you look at HIMS, their app is increasingly popular. People are very happy with the app. If you look at the App Store or the Play Store on Google, Android, very happy with it. They are introducing new products. What is HIMS in a nutshell? HIMS is a eDoctor, an e-pharmacy without insurance. So eDoctor plus ePharmacy means you kill the cost of doctor visits because the doctor can be much more efficient doing everything digitally. So this is taking a little bit out of the playbook of Teladoc. And you save a lot of money by doing everything digitally. So that's the eDoctor. Then you have the ePharmacy business. So the ePharmacy business, in the case of HIMS, is they have two giant automated warehouses, one in Columbus, one in Phoenix, and these automated warehouses are pharmacies. They are warehouse pharmacies, and they ship from these pharmacies. So in doing so, HIMS now is disrupting the 45,000 retail pharmacies in the United States. Ask yourself, do we need 45,000 different point of sales in a world with same-day shipping? And, in the case of Amazon, for example, less than 5-hour shipping in most of the country. Do we need that? Do we need 45,000 pharmacy? And of course, I'm a growth investor, so I try to think 5 years ahead. In 5 years, will 2-hour delivery be the norm? I think so. So then there's really no point. Like there is no medication. I mean, there's really no point of having 45,000 pharmacies. And of course, because it removes the cost of the doctors, which much of the costs of the doctors come from empire building of hospitals, which build hospitals that look like mansions and medical office building and very moaty, very rent-seeking type of business. Lots of overhead, lots of administration. That's traditional healthcare, your traditional doctor. HIMS collapses that cost entirely, doing it entirely digital through the app. So you save a lot of cash. Then HIMS, talk about HIMS, right? They do the same thing for pharmacies. Pharmacies, you don't have to pay tens of thousands of different pharmacists making $200,000 a year. You don't have to do any of that with a digital pharmacy. It's all through the app. The posology, all of the instructions on how to use the drugs are given through the app, right? I mean, pharmacists are supposed to give you advice when you get a drug, but in the US, most pharmacies are drive-through. So I don't even know how much advice you get when you go at a CVS, get a drive-through prescription. Do you really get advice with your pharmacist? Do you really have a conversation with pharmacists? Not really. With HIMS, you do. With HIMS, you do because the app teaches you. So it's a digital pharmacy, a digital pharmacist, fully automated prescriptions, fully automated warehouse. And because you save costs on the digital doctor, because you save costs on the digital pharmacy, then you don't need to use insurance. You don't need to use insurance to pay for the rent seeking of 20th century style businesses like pharmacies, like independent pharmacies and like medical office buildings and administration and health systems. And you understand this. I understand this vision of HIMS because 70 to 80% of health matters are resolved through pharmaceuticals, through medication. Medication resolve, 70-ish% of any ailment one may have, which means you don't need that many physical locations, right? These physical locations will remain for those, 30% of cases, even less in some cases, edge cases often, where you actually need to go physically in the office for a procedure. So this entirely changes the cost structure and the cost system of how healthcare is administered. Healthcare is administered in a very, 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 very different way, thanks to companies like HIMSS. And it is logical. It is logical. It's just the way the way it goes. In the 20th century, we needed to organize pharmacies. We needed to organize health districts the way they were. In the 21st century, a different organization is coming to life. And I think HIMSS might be a key player in that world. There's much more to say about HIMSS, but I'll stop right here. Let's talk about Palantir. Okay, Palantir, I've been a little disappointed lately. There's a lot of hype around the stock, and I do not like that. I think there's much more unwarranted hype around Palantir than there are around, say, a company like Enphase, or a company like HIMSS, or a company like even SoFi or StoneCo. Less people like StoneCo, but I think some of the hype around Palantir is a little bit unwarranted right now. We'll have to see, how much they do, but I'm feeling a little weary about my position in Palantir, especially when I see these headlines on YouTube, these grand titles. I'm getting a little concerned. Nonetheless, I make my decisions on my own. I don't need the input of anybody to make my decisions. I own Palantir. I'm very happy to own Palantir. I own Palantir for the military business because their military business is, in my view, the best, and it is where they shine. And the commercial product, it still is yet to be shown how the commercial product is going to work, how much of that commercial product is going to sell. Palantir is not a wonderful selling organization. It's a great organization to sell into the government. They have great software for the government. And to me, that is enough in this thesis. And, the last video I did on Palantir, when you actually look at revenue growth, you realize that the revenue growth of Palantir is actually quicker, slightly, for the government than it is for the commercial business. I also don't like kind of a bait and switch that they did, which, we were supposed to prioritize growth. And like a year back, they were like, oh, we're profitable. I'm like, no, I don't want you to be profitable right now. I want you to grow. They did this 180. But anyways, last thing I'll say about Palantir is what I love, of course, is that Peter Thiel is the co-founder of Palantir. And I love that very much because Peter Thiel, former partner of Elon Musk with PayPal and X in the early days, even though it didn't end too well with them because Musk was fired while he was on vacation. Anyways, doesn't really matter. They were still part of this quote-unquote PayPal mafia. And this PayPal mafia is really a philosophy of how business should be done. And that philosophy is that of the 10x product. When you hear everybody say, oh, it's one order of magnitude, that's part of that PayPal mafia philosophy. That if you want to achieve, uncontested dominance in the marketplace, your product cannot be 30% or 20% better. You can't be the new Tide laundry detergent cleans 20% better than the competition, right? That's not going to lead everybody to quit buying everything else just to go buy Tide. But if the laundry detergent was like 10 times better, then everybody would quit buying every single other laundry detergent and would go buy Tide. That's the concept of the 0 to 1 move. That's the concept of the 10x product. When the order of magnitude, which in the real world we call 10x, but the order of magnitude, when a product is an order of magnitude better, people switch. They just switch, and Teslas are multiple orders of magnitude better. Enphase is a good order of magnitude better than buying electricity from the grid. Eventually, after you're done with your payment, Enphase is electricity free for life. That's crazy, right? HIMSS is at least one order of magnitude better than the traditional healthcare system. No insurance, cheaper, no wait. You see a specialist right away, 24 to 48 hours, right? Palantir is the same way for their government business. But it's a tough company to understand. Their government business did wonderful things as far as helping the Western world and the military. And so I'm very optimistic about that side of the business. It would be a case where if Palantir were to split commercial and government, I would likely own just the government side of the business. Anyways, let me move on to Crowdstrike. Crowdstrike, I gotta change that. I'm sorry. Now it's 7 years out. Now it's 5 to 7 years out. They gave us outstanding guidance. 10 billion ARR, 5 to 7 years. I made a full video about this. Likely would be 5 now. I would argue. So that means that growth rate of 30+% is gonna continue between 5 and 7 years. It's annual recurring revenue. Most of their revenue is recurring. What does Crowdstrike do? They have a high network effect business in their AI endpoint security system. The security system is a cloud-based security system. It's called Falcon. Falcon is installed on so many different endpoint devices. These endpoint devices are things like laptops, things like cars, IoT machines, phones, you name it. They're installed on these endpoint devices. Whenever there is a breach, that breach is broadcast to the entire network of Falcon users, and that breach is stopped. So it's kind of a networked security system where really it's all companies that use Falcon that are aware whenever there has been a breach anywhere else in the network, and then the software gets updated live in the cloud. That's in a nutshell how Crowdstrike works, heavily simplified, but this means that you have a winner-take-all business because obviously, just like one goes on Amazon because Amazon has the most stuff, just like everybody wants to learn English around the world because English is the most useful language because everybody kind of understands it. The same reason is for a software like that. Everybody's going to want that software because everybody else has it. So that's this network effect, which is, well, everybody else has it. Everybody else is going to see the breaches through that software, so I have to have it. And this is kind of the way it works. And that's why this company is an expensive company, but it's nonetheless, in my view, a great hold, a great company to own. Very happy to own it. And it's in the cybersecurity space. Cybersecurity space is of course, security of the modern day. Security in the modern day is moving to the digital world as we spend most of our awakened lives living digitally. And so that's going to be more and more important. Let me move on to MercadoLibre. Love MercadoLibre very much. It's like buying Amazon or Alibaba a few years back. They are the leader in e-commerce in Latin America. They also have a great fintech division, a little bit of an ad business vision. Most of their business is their e-commerce and fintech. Noteworthy to say, MercadoLibre is really cementing its advantage because now not only are they pushing their fintech business around Latin America, so you have a little bit of a competition with StoneCo, for example, but they're also building their shipping network and their freight network a la Amazon. So this is a company, in my view, that has won Latin America. A lot of Asian companies have had trouble doing a lot of business there, and so has Amazon. Amazon is not that big there. I mean, it's not that big. I think the last data I was watching is Amazon is about 10% in Brazil. So no, the leader in a country like Brazil, which is where it's the biggest country in Latin America, the leader is MercadoLibre. They have had impressive growth. I think that will continue for many years to come. You can see before the crazy crash madness, they had 35+% ARR. Right now, with a crash that we've had in the market, 27%. Nothing to sneeze at. Very happy to own MercadoLibre. Let me move on to StoneCo. StoneCo, in my view, is kind of like buying Square in 2014. It's the Square of Brazil. They have these terminal payments. Of course, there is quite a bit of competition in that space, but there is also, in my view, a clear duopoly between StoneCo and PagSeguro. I prefer StoneCo because StoneCo is the more youthful, quickly growing, faster growing company than PagSeguro. I also think StoneCo has great marketing. People in Brazil, from everything that I read, are very into marketing and very interested. And StoneCo has one of the best marketing out there. They have nearly 3 million small businesses using the payment terminal, and once you're a small business and you have a payment terminal, you're not going to switch. I mean, it's so easy, and it's so easy to stay with your payment company. If the products are roughly the same, you're not going to switch, knowing that StoneCo is also adding kind of an ERP system with their setup, where they allow for the management of inventory, the management of finances. So they're kind of selling a small business ERP, or a small business Brazilian version of a QuickBooks that they're adding to the software to the payment terminal to make it even more sticky. And I think this is very, very, very smart. I do not understand why a company like StoneCo is so cheap. The market has moved away from StoneCo, even though this is a company that's owned, for example, by both Warren Buffett and Cathie Wood. What a combo. Anyways, let me move on. SoFi. So SoFi, I'm growing more and more bullish on SoFi. Student loans, they seem to be coming back. I mean, technically, if I were to be a little cynical, we moved from forgiveness to the SAVE, the SAVE program, and the SAVE program is going to cost $200 billion. And the forgiveness was going to cost $400 billion. So I guess good for the taxpayer, because taxpayer saved 50%. But don't forget, the SAVE program is still going to take away, in my view, some of the business that a student loan financier originally, right? And they're much more than that. But at the beginning, they were just student loans. So far, I think it's still not going to be their main business. But the market's getting excited about the student loan. This is a stock where the pattern is so annoying. That's a stock that is cheap again. It's let me tell you the story of SoFi. Every quarter they do an outstanding beat. Lots of new customers joining, new accounts, great metrics on just about everything. The stock pops 30%. And then 2 months, 2 months and a half later, the stock is back down in the $7-8 range. And it's been doing that ever since the macro madness has begun. So SoFi right now, in my view, I like the stock. I mean, it's just for me, no investment advice, but I like the stock right now. And the big thesis, of course, and as I said at the beginning of the video, when I invest, it's for 10 years. 10 years, right? That's my goal. When I look at my product adoption curve, when I look at the curve that I showed you at the beginning of the video, and I look at these numbers of new member, right? How many new members they sign up? I mean, we clearly see the inflection point, and we are clearly in that 30% plus growth, part of the curve. Let me go back to it. If I show you here, when you do this, right, and you do this is the flatter shape of the curve, right? If you look at SoFi, I mean, to me, it's pretty obvious we are in that curve, and new customers are signing up. There is a little bit of a slowdown with the large numbers, but barely. I mean, if you see, you went from Q1 46 year over year, Q2 44. So even if you extrapolate that decrease, and then you say 42 in Q3, 14 Q4, 38, you still have a good 2 years and a half where you're still growing members at more than 40%. And of course, the goal for them is to be a top 10 financial institution by 2030. I believe this is possible. Of course, SoFi, investing in a stock like SoFi, is investing in the disruption of consumer branches and the end of consumer branches in a world where cash is not relevant anymore because we all pay with plastic and our phones, Apple Pay, etc. In that world, you really don't need a branch to manage cash. And so SoFi is able to offer the best product in each category that matters. And it offers that best product. Why? Because it has the best cost structure, right? It doesn't have 5,000... the average branch in the US, like one of the big 4 banks, has got between 5,000 and 7,000 branches per bank, right? SoFi does not have 5,000 branches with 7 employees each to maintain, to pay taxes on, etc., etc., etc. So that's why I'm very bullish on SoFi. Lots of people love SoFi. Lots of customers of SoFi actually love SoFi. It's not just the stock people that love SoFi, it's the customers too. So it's interesting. And let me move on to Airbnb. Airbnb, another one of my stocks that few people agree with me on, it seems. Every time I hear, it's going to get banned, it's going to get banned. Well, Uber was the same story, and Uber eventually prevailed, and so Airbnb, in my view, is eventually going to prevail. They've disrupted per the last call about 10% of hotels, so they still have a tremendous growth avenue for hotels. What I love about Airbnb is that it's a platform. It's using pre-existing capital that's already out here, and it's using that capital to its benefit, and they just have a take rate on top of the capital that they're already using. And being a two-sided platform, what is so amazing is that really it's just people who go on there and list, and buyers go on the platform and buy housing in these listings, and Airbnb just has to be the take rate, right? They oversee the transaction. They provide a layer of trust, a layer of communication, and all of that good stuff, like all platforms do. But it's a very, very profitable business because Airbnb does not have to build any hotels, any resorts, any accommodations, any house. They don't have to build anything, right? They're just that transaction layer. They're kind of the Visa of MasterCard of hotels, if that makes any sense. So it's just the take rate. And to me, the bigger vision of Airbnb, of course, is that they are going after the mom and pop renters. 20% of Airbnb are long-term, longer than 28 days, long-term stays. So what if Airbnb wants, hotels about 10%? What if they get to, 20, 30%, and then they start going after a mom and pop landlord business? I think it's a real possibility. And they could do very, very, very well, because you would have people who would in the past go on their own about renting their house, and now they don't go on their own. They just go through Airbnb, and it's a best cost product. It follows the 10x features. It follows the order of magnitude features. If you're traveling as a family, if you're traveling in some different spots, they are providing you arguably a better experience than a hotel in many cases. So they have that best cost component to them. So which is why I love Airbnb very much. And lastly, let me finish with not a stock, but I put it as a stock here as MicroStrategy. They actually just bought plenty more Bitcoin today, so I'm very happy to own MicroStrategy. Great for me for owning it. I'm very happy with that. MicroStrategy is of course my bet on Bitcoin. Bitcoin is my second largest asset. But it's not a stock, right? It's not a stock, it's Bitcoin. So that's why my second largest stock proper is actually Enphase. But if I were to consider Bitcoin to be a stock, it would be Bitcoin, of course. But Bitcoin is an asset, and Bitcoin, of course, to me, it's a very important asset. It's schmuck insurance in case the USD becomes like the Bolivar or the Argentinian peso. So that you always have that insurance, because of course it's capped at 21 million. Bitcoin is capped. That's not the truth of the US dollar. And obviously, with a channel like Beat the Denominator, this is very appealing to me. I also love Bitcoin very much because I consider actually, and this is not something that most people see this way, but I do. Bitcoin, in my view, is way less risky than a stock. It's way less risky than a stock. It's a bond alternative, right? Bitcoin, you don't have to worry about issues of competition because they've won that, right? They've won it. You don't have to worry about. It's tough to do a whole expose on Bitcoin without going into great depths. But if you'll just take my word for it. Bitcoin, you don't have to worry about security because of mining, right? It's one of the most secure, not one of the, it's the most secure network because of the energy that backs Bitcoin, the Bitcoin miners that mine the Bitcoin. And I realized that you need to go through a really deep rabbit hole in order to kind of understand all of the aspects of Bitcoin. But I recommend that the type of time that one may put on bonds, trying to understand bonds, in my view, that time would be better put into an understanding Bitcoin, right? A book I really recommend, of course, is the Bitcoin Standard. Bitcoin Standard is one of the major books, but there's many different books that you can read about Bitcoin. I actually have been into Bitcoin since 2015, early 2015. And you know, like a fool, I sold it because I was believing what people were telling me, that it was, you know, I was young and impressionable, and I was like, you know, oh, it's a scam. And today you still have people thinking that Bitcoin is a scam. And you know, that's why I trust my due diligence. Anyways, that's enough about Bitcoin. I've made a few videos about Bitcoin on this channel. Very little people watch them. It's okay, but I am very confident over the value of Bitcoin in the long term, and the fact that it can be the digital gold, and it is an asset that provides you protection like none other. You know, for example, you can store your Bitcoin in a brain wallet in your head, which is something no other asset does, right? Every single other asset you own, whether it's money on your bank account, right? It's an IOU. If you own shares in a broker, they're typically actually owned by computer share in street name. You actually don't own them; they're in street name. Right. If you own real estate in the county, and you know you're on the deed, etc., great, you own real estate. But do you really own real estate, right? What happens if you stop paying property taxes? What's gonna happen? Anyways, so it's I consider Bitcoin to be one of the most intellectual rabbit holes that I've ever been down into, and it's truly amazing. So, anyways, and of course the returns, right? This is a video about the top 10 returns. The returns, 78% have been the returns, so it's quite a bit, right? If you compare to Tesla, it's been stunning returns. Tesla and GBTC, really the two best performing assets, you know, in the past how many years? 10 years. So, you know, and that really tells you a lot about the cynicism sometimes of media. If you think about the amount of cynicism from mainstream finance that has gone against people owning Tesla and owning Bitcoin, and you realize that, yeah, actually that Gen Z that someone may have made fun of in, you know, 2016, 2017, whenever, they might have not been that dumb after all, investing in these companies. Because anyways, all right, I'm done with this video. This was not investment advice. This was just entertainment. I hope you were entertained. No investment advice. Appreciate your likes. Appreciate your subscribes. Have a wonderful day.